Hi guys, it's Kelly here, and this video today is all about alternative exercises. So I know a lot of people in my VIP group need alternatives from time to time, maybe due to injury, maybe to do with body shape, maybe to do with biomechanics. Or just general preferences. You know, some people don't like certain exercises. So what I thought I'd do today is give you a video to be able to give you as many alternatives as possible that you can then keep and you can use. And then when I teach, and if I'm doing an exercise that you don't particularly like, or it feels right for you, then you know your alternative to pick from it instead. So first of all, I'm going to start with a lot of people's nemesis, which is the lunge, all right? Now, when I teach my lunges, I actually teach my lunges in a reverse lunge. And the reason I do that is because when you take the foot behind you and you can't see, it's not in your peripheral vision, essentially you actually are working on your proprioception. Now, when you have an increase in proprioception, you have a decrease in myofascial pain. So it can actually help in the future for you to be able to move more freely and feel better whilst moving. It also massively helps with balance, but a lot of people do struggle with lunges. Potentially could be because of knees, could be because of feet, could be because of bunions, all sorts of things like that. So alternatives that you can do. First of all, if the lunge is coming forward, then what you can do is you can step and kick back instead. So you're still mimicking the movement of coming forward and you are opening up that hip flexor coming back. Now that can also be used for lunges going backwards as well, which is absolutely fine because the leg is going back behind you and you can't see where it's going. Another alternative for the lunges is rather than alternating and moving through, is that you actually stay with the lunge, holding on to something for support, and you lift up and down. You make two right angles with your legs and you lift them lower from here. And that could be an alternative with support without having to do that step action, because a lot of people struggle with the step action because, again, of balance or proprioception. So it can help to improve. We could also, rather than actually stepping and kicking back, you could just take a kick back. Still working through the glutes, still opening up through the hip flexors, and still essentially getting that action of the leg going back behind you. It might be that the actual lunge position doesn't feel good for you, but you still want to do this kind of down up movement. So then for you, squats would be much better. So you could take your squat, you could have your feet wider if you needed to improve external rotation of the hips, and that might feel much more comfortable for you to do instead. If it's a weighted class and you want to work still the back of the legs, in that format and your lower back, you might want to change it to a stiff leg deadlift instead, using the weights there and coming up and down and through. So that could be your alternative. Second one is squats. Now, a lot of people find that they don't like squats or they find it challenging, but it is a really functional move. It's going to help you get up and down from a seat, up and down from the toilet. So I would definitely recommend that you choose a variation of a squat, which might be more beneficial for you, rather than take it out completely, because when you stop doing something, you end up then losing the ability to be able to do it. Now, we do not want you to lose the ability to be able to get up and down from your chair, okay? So first thing that we want to do with your squats, if you are struggling with the movement, then definitely take the feet wider, turn your toes out, and you might find that just helps to improve that movement for you. Remember, it's your butt going down, not back. Second thing you can do, again, is hold on to something that you can actually use to give you the confidence to be able to go down lower. like a handle of a door. Alternatively, it could be a chair that you could hold on to, and that might feel better for you, okay? With regards to if you find that, the knees feel uncomfortable in any way, shape or form, then absolutely you can change it to, again, a glute kickback, or for instance, like a wide squat really works through the inner thighs. So for an alternative for you here is you might want to take like an inner thigh kick through, or if you want to work more of the outer thigh, it could be an outer thigh standing movement as well. And that might be more beneficial for you instead of the squat. But remember, like I said, it's a very functional move. We don't want to limit you not being able to get up and get down from the floor. However, we do know that certain conditions, one of my clients has got like a cyst on the back of the knee, and actually squatting whilst she's waiting for her surgery is not advised. So we're actually working through the legs in a more standing position with support. So coming out here, coming here instead, working through the quads, coming up and down from here, and working through the glutes, back in that position instead. You could also do all of those moves from floor work. So again, we can work the outer thighs in a sideline position here. We could work the inner thighs from a sideline position here. We could work the quads from a seated position up and down from here. And we could work the glutes from a kneeling position here. So if you needed to, that could be your alternative. Next one that I'm going to give you is a burpee. Now, I don't often put them in my regular classes, but definitely in my HIIT training, we do burpees. I know it's not right for everybody, but again, super functional to be able to come up and down from the floor. So if that full burpee isn't good for you, here's your alternative. You lift up, down, you step back, in, take the feet really wide, stand up. Hands down, step back, in, and lift. If it's actually the up-down movement that's causing you problems, then instead you can come up, down, stand up, push back, and again, up, down, push back, and that could be your alternative instead. So rather than actually coming all the way down to the floor. Any movement where you come up and down from the floor, again, it's super functional, but a lot of people struggle if the feet are too close. So say, for instance, you might be in one of my Pilates classes and we're taking a roll down where we come down to the floor and come into a plank position or a press-up position. Here, if you have your feet wider, for your start point, you'll find you can actually move up and down a little bit better and bend the knees as much as possible, okay? That could be your alternative. Now, any move where you are lifting your body weight from this position, whether it be a push-up, whether it be a hill climb, or whether it be a plank, there is a hell of a lot less pressure on you if you have your hands elevated. So either having your hands elevated up onto like a shelf where you can do your hill climber here, or you can do your push-up here instead. It could be on a step, it could be on a ledge. You might only need a little elevation. In that case, it could be blocks that you're elevated on that might feel more comfortable for you instead. If the actual position of the wrist is not good for you, when you are either in like a plank position or in an all-four position, by all means you can go onto your knuckles and you can be there. You might want to come down onto your wrists, your forearms instead, Or you might actually need to hold on to something so that your hands are off the floor, like holding your weights here, or holding blocks instead. And that might be much more appropriate for you. You might find that that's a lot easier actually on the wrist position. With regards to a push-up, definitely to make that push-up more achievable, if you want to do it, use an activation band. Put it around the back of your triceps, whether it be your hands elevated or down on the floor. You'll be able to actually achieve your push-up because the activation band takes the weight. So push-ups with the activation band are much, much more achievable than push-ups without. That lifting and lowering phase of your body, though, kind of needs to almost be something that's learnt from your neuromuscular pathway. So what I would suggest you do for that, if you actually would really love to learn how to do a full press up, but it's just not happening for you at the moment, I would bring your body weight all the way down to the floor so that your chest is rested, and then your hands can go as wide as you wish. Your feet then turn down, and you can either go with just your knees and you push all the way up and you come all the way down. You can then let your hands go, you push all the way up and you push all the way down. Or you go with your toes, you push all the way up and all the way down. Push all the way up, all the way down. And that will help you with learning that movement to be able to come up and down from the floor. If it's the actual push position that causes you a lot of problems, then we could just change the position. So when I do push-ups, if you would prefer, you can grab your hand weights, you can grab your mini ball, put the mini ball back behind you, and you can take a chest press here instead. You're still working the same muscle groups. You've got this abdominal bracing happening here from the ball, and you're lifting and lowering. Alternatively, that could come all the way down to the floor, and instead of having the mini ball, you could do your chest press here to work the arms, and then to incorporate that core activation, you can take your legs lifted up into tabletop, and that might be much better for you instead. Now, again, exercises that I do sometimes in my body conditioning and my HIIT involve you lifting your body weight up from the floor. And again, I know due to strength issues, biomechanic issues, general preference issues, sometimes this can be really tough. So giving you an example, there is a move that I sometimes teach where I'll take alternating hands coming up from here, lifting up. So firstly, alternative could just be lifting your bottom off the floor and then popping it down. Lifting up and popping it down. But if it's the lift that's the issue, then essentially what you could do is keep your bottom down and alternate your hand to your foot here instead. I've got short legs, easy for me to touch my toes. All right, you might have lovely long legs, might be a little bit more of a reach for you. Or if the lift action isn't an issue, but it's then lifting the hands off the floor, you could just lift the legs. And that could be your alternative, rather than actually taking that hand off the floor into that position. If the move itself is just not good for you, lifted up in that position, you could come all the way down to the floor and then taking the hand to the foot here. The back stays in neutral spine, bracing the abdominals, and we've got that action there instead. Now in my classes, I do a lot of ab work, and I try and give as many alternatives as possible. If sit-ups are not good for you for one reason or another, maybe you've been diagnosed with osteoporosis, maybe you've got cervical spine issues, maybe there has been hysterectomy or prolapse within the body, and that crunching movement is not good for you, then absolutely I would suggest you coming from a laying point of view, finding your neutral spine and then coming up either with just one leg and taking a tap down and then going to the other side, or lifting and lowering the feet, so up, up, down, down, or if you're nice and strong in tabletop and you can do your tap downs or you can do your leg slides, that might be much more appropriate for you rather than curling the head and shoulders. Alternatively, you can work the abs just as strong with your ball in a seated position. A lot of people struggle with laying back. It's quite common for women who have gone through the menopause because of the changes of the crystals in their ears, that you find that sometimes when they lay back, they feel quite sick, quite nauseous. So keeping in a seated position, you might find that actually there you've got no crunch action. You can then work the arms up and down, whether that be single or double. You can work the arms out and in and use those arms instead, which might be much more beneficial, or taking the legs away and doing those exercises rather than a crunch position. Okay. With regards to a reverse curl, a lot of people struggle with a reverse curl. It works through the lower abdominals. And again, if you're quite bottom heavy, you might find that that action feels uncomfortable for you, or you might just not be able to do it. So again, we could sit and stretch the leg away instead. So rather than lifting the bottom, this exercise works through the lower abs. So you find that this is much, again, really good, really beneficial for those lower abdominals. If seated is not comfortable, then either back into neutral spine, and again, you could slide the leg away with the foot down, or you could come to tabletop and you could slide the leg away here. If you felt more comfortable to put the ball underneath the bottom, that could be your alternative as well. You might want to do the reverse curl, but you just can't get that movement going on. And the ball can massively help then. So with regards to the actual reverse curl, if we put a ball under our bottom, it kind of cushions us, but already we're elevated a little bit off the floor. So it gives us a bit of leverage. We can find them, we can actually come up and down a lot easier. Alternatively, you could come into your plank position, whether that be with on the hands, or down on the elbows, or down on the knees, all of which can be done. Again, you're focusing on those lower abdominals, which can again be much more beneficial, okay? Let's now start thinking about moves I might do maybe in yoga, and a lot of people do struggle with that kind of deep step through position. So I'm talking about where I might come from downward dog, and I could take one leg up into three-leg dog, and then I'd take a big step forward into like a low lizard. If that is a struggle for you, what I would definitely suggest you do is that you go from your downward dog, you lower your knees, you lift your body up, and then you step forward. Here, you could use the support of a block to lift you up and have you elevated, so it's not such a struggle to get down. Leave the lower leg down. You could then do your rotation if you wanted to here, or you could stay in low lizard. You could then obviously lift that leg if you needed to. But rather than actually trying to get that leg to come through, which might not be appropriate, some people, again, with regards to biomechanics, that's a struggle. So you could go from kneeling to step forward from there, okay? And again, in yoga and in body conditioning, we do sometimes, lateral positions, which again, sometimes are not great for people, just with regards to, again, different things going on with hips. So if a lateral move or a lateral lunge is not good for you, then absolutely you can change that to bringing it just back into more of a straight position, a more sagittal position, if that's better, and lifting up from here. Alternatively, if it's like a lunge, a lateral lunge, then we can take our outer thigh and do that move instead, okay? Most people find that, with body weight exercises, it's the lifting of the body that can feel really uncomfortable, or the moving of the body that can feel uncomfortable. So for instance, like with regards to like a tricep press up, or a diamond press up, I used to teach a lot of, if again that's not good for you, then you could just change the exercise, maybe use some hand weights instead to still work through the same muscle group. So if I just show you, a tricep push-up is where your hands are quite close together. You focus on pushing up and down. Again, we might do this in yoga, where the hands are very, very close together from here. Alternatively, if you prefer, you could take the triceps into a kickback to work the same muscle group, or again, that could go overhead instead to press up and down and through. If you wanted to obviously try and perfect that move, say for instance, like in yoga, it might not be appropriate to grab some hand weights. Again, just pop the activation band around and you'll find then that your tricep push-up is a hell of a lot easier, and you can come up and down from here, maybe with your hands elevated, which might feel much more comfortable for you as well. So we kind of wanted to cover like the major culprits. Definitely the lunges, the squats, definitely the push-ups, the plank, hill climber kind of positions. Then that reverse position for the triceps, anything elevated, lifting you up from the floor. Also then thinking about exercises with the abdominals, which might be better for some clientele. And then like the tricep push-ups that you could absolutely have a variation of instead. So I really hope that's been helpful. Please let me know if there's anything that I've not covered that you still struggle with, and I'll do you another video. Otherwise, if there's any questions, don't hesitate to get in contact. Yeah, let me know your feedback on that one. Thanks so much.